Welcome to New York's number two sports show. The Yankees are able to salvage the series. They avoid the sweep, but they do lose 2 of 3 to the Arizona Diamondbacks at Yankee Stadium. Currently sitting now, if the Yankees, that is, at 4-2. So a series that was definitely winnable. Arizona's a good team, a team that's definitely going to be in the playoff mix in the National League. The NL West is just ridiculously strong. So figure the Diamondbacks will not probably be in contention of the division with the Dodgers and Padres both currently undefeated. Not even so much that, just we know how good both those teams are, especially the Dodgers. However, Arizona, who reached the World Series in 2023 and lost to the Texas Rangers, barely missing the playoffs last year, figures, again, it's a quality team for sure. But really, in looking at the games, not so much what was predicted going in, right? Because on paper, the first matchup of Corbin Burns versus Will Warren was definitely slanted towards Arizona. But the Yankees, that was the game that really got away from them that would have given them the series win. Zac Gallen completely shut the Yankees down in game two. He had 13 strikeouts. Yankees struck out a lot the first two games, 14 strikeouts for the Yankees in game one, 16 in game two. But then the Yankees bats really woke up in a big time way in game three against Merrill Kelly, where Aaron Judge hits a 3-run homer, Trent Grisham hits a 2-run shot, Jazz Chisholm Jr. hits a 2-run shot. So the Yankees home run barrage is still very present. A concern that I have slightly is that it's a little bit of an all or nothing approach, which we've seen in years past. Obviously, home runs are the name of the game in this day and age of baseball. It just is, unequivocally. However, um, again, you want to see the strikeouts not be such a thing. And it really wasn't that, in the Milwaukee series, I don't believe the Yankees really were striking out a whole lot. And part of that is due to who they faced, right? I mean, I guess against Peralta it was a little bit, but against Cortez and Savali, it wasn't. Um, and so that's something to look at, right? In a lineup that doesn't feature Juan Soto anymore, and that he was someone that, obviously had a good eye and didn't strike out a crazy amount, certainly for how good he is. This lineup may feature more strikeouts, right? I mean, now that, for example, like Jazz Chisholm Jr. is more integrated into this lineup last year was a trade deadline acquisition. We know that he can. Cody Bellinger at certain points of his career has been a guy that's, had strikeouts. He's cut down on that lately, but Paul Goldschmidt, he is someone, even in his best of times, is someone that is prone to decay. So, um, it's just something to look at. And look, that all is to say that the offense through 6 games, it's hard to have many complaints, but as the season evolves, you kind of see the strengths and weaknesses of a team. And I feel like with this one, they certainly are going to have that ability to hit the ball out of the park, and that's going to really lead to a lot of wins. But you also see kind of that all or nothing mentality that could lead to them being shut down, as we saw certainly in game two. I thought they did well against Corbin Burns in game one. It was the bullpen that completely wiped them out. And here are some just sort of news and transactions that are important to this series. Devin Williams missed this series due to paternity leave. I believe the expectation is that he'll be back against Pittsburgh, and what will be their home opening series this weekend. Um, so Adam Ottavino, yes, Adam Ottavino is a Yankee again. I did not see that coming. He's not wearing number 0 because Marcus Stroman is, so I believe he's number 58. Um, just kind of random, but Ottavino, who was a Yankee in 2019 and 2020, was really good in 2019, not as good in 2020 at all. Really felt, and even in 2019, I think as the season wore on, I remember, being at some of those playoff games, and there was one specifically versus the Astros where it was really kind of unraveling on him. And then, but he really has had varied degrees of success since leaving the Yankees. He had that one year with the Red Sox in 2021, and then was with the Mets from 22 to 24. So he's been around here, whether in division or in New York. He hasn't gone too far away. And now he's with the Yanks. And I'm just wondering, um, what is the plan as far as when Devin Williams is back? Who is going to be the one that's off the roster? Ottavino has to be in that conversation, but I don't know. It's really kind of up for debate. Could it be a Brent Hedrick? Could it be a Yoendris Gomez, who's been pretty effective? That remains to be seen. And I think that, the expectation is Devin Williams will be back, but I don't know. I'm not sure what everyone else thinks. I'm curious. because I don't think it's necessarily obvious, but I also don't think it's that consequential either, right? It's kind of the last bullpen spot, so it really isn't a huge deal. But we'll see what they do. So out of on the roster, and so what that led to, unfortunately, was game one. Everyone was kind of bumped up in the pecking order, and it led to a situation where it was a combination of Tim Hill and Mark Leiter Jr. that could not hold it in the eighth inning, thus leading to the loss. And what was kind of frustrating a little bit is that, and I get it this early in the season, Luke Weaver, who at that point hadn't pitched in a good amount of time. He hadn't pitched, that was Monday, and he hadn't pitched since last Thursday. You could have, in theory, gone with Weaver for the 4-out save. And why that's more proven true is because he got the 4-out save in game three in this series. So I was ready to come on here and say, hey, they don't want to do that. They want to ease him in. Fine, I can live with that. Even though Luke Weaver, even like last year, was a guy that pitched multiple innings. He's a former starter. But I could have at least understood it. But then once they did that, it's kind of like, okay, um, why then? Why was it okay in game three, but not game one? And I understand that you wouldn't have done it in both games, but the game one was a bases loaded, 2-out, 1-run situation. So um, frustrating, if nothing else. Understand the reasoning for staying away from him, but it did cost them because Luke Weaver has just been just purely solid, beyond solid with the Yankees. And so it's hard not to have faith that he would have come in there and got the job done, even though it was a tough situation. So a lot of good that happened in game one, but then it ends up kind of, leaving on a sour note completely with the bullpen kind of imploding, the Yankee offense shutting down. And so that was the first loss of the season. Then game two, weather was pretty shitty, and that's what you get this time of year. And Carlos Rodon, a couple of leadoff walks really came back to bite him early. Rodon didn't implode, but he wasn't great. Zac Gallen absolutely shoved. I mean, the Yankees could not touch Zac Gallen. Yankees had a late rally in the ninth that fell short, but they didn't deserve. It wasn't the game they deserved to win. Whereas game one, that was more of the stinger. Game two, they just really didn't do anything to speak of offensively, and Rodon just wasn't nearly good enough. And then game three, the bats just were really, really they were awoken. It was another power outage, really. The torpedo bats were back at it. Um, and Carlos Carrasco, all in all, pitched pretty well. And part of that is because the Yankees scored for him, right? Like, if would I have been talking like this? Same thing with Stroman in a sense, right? Where Stroman and Carrasco got a lot of run support, which helped a great deal. But still, credit given, especially to Carrasco, who gave them some length. He went like 5 1/3 and only let 3 runs. Like, he's not someone I felt comfortable at all leaving in the rotation for quite some time. But hey, like, I think this is someone that's he is near the end of the line. Like, there's no debating that. And yet he gave the Yankees what they needed. Ryan Yarbrough just imploded. Gave up a grand slam, but then a combination of Mark Leiter Jr. and Luke Weaver leads the way to victory. So let's try to, go through this series. Again, I gave you, pretty much some of the big bullet points there. But as far as game one was concerned, and look, Paul Goldschmidt did that lead off the first couple of games. Just to run through the lineup real quick, Paul Goldschmidt, not a great series. He was good in the second and third games against Milwaukee, or surrounding that, not so much. And so hopefully he got the day off, the night off. He did pinch hit and come in for defense, but hopefully that can kind of reinvigorate him for the Pittsburgh series. And I am wondering in that game one, will Goldschmidt be leading off? I'm curious as to that. Maybe they will, for the simple fact that he has been, and there's two lefties on the mound for Pittsburgh and Saturday, Sunday, just to keep that going. But just in terms of what's deserved or what's better, Austin Wells back in that leadoff spot for me might be the way to go against righties, but I digress. Cody Bellinger, he had a bit of a rough offensive series, made some good plays defensively. Very impressed by what Cody Bellinger could do in the outfield for sure, but was quiet on the offensive side. Judge really broke out at the very end of game two, and then game three was just unbelievable. So the stats for him, even if it was a tough start, end up being great. Jazz Chisholm Jr., a really rough game one. He struck out all 4 times. But he ends up homering in game three. In game two, he, was one of the few guys that got a hit. So it's funny. His stats look really good. I don't know that necessarily tells the full story, but like, he is a power threat, if nothing else, and a speed threat. But again, I want to see a little bit more consistency in cutting down the strikeouts. Anthony Volpe, another kind of one of the all or nothing type guys, he homered in the 4 of his first 5 games of the season. and finally got his first non-home run hit in game 3. So with Volpe, a lot to be excited about, but it's also tempered as well because, again, it is just all home runs. A lot of them have kind of barely gone out. You'll take them all the same, and I think that, he's another one of them, kinda like Chisholm. They're different, but yet it seems like some of their best skill sets is power and speed. And that is your double play, up the middle tandem. Austin Wells was one of the bright spots in game 2. Didn't do a whole lot in game 1, but certainly, again, was good in game 2. Jason Dominguez, kind of a tale of different games with him as well. One of the definite bright spots in game 1, homered off of Corbin Burns and was good in game 3. Game 2 was a massive struggle for Dominguez. The good news there, though, no defensive miscues, so that's a good thing. Uh, I guess we'll jump. Ben Rice, very good in game 1 and 3. He actually batted leadoff in game 3 and played first base. Didn't do much in game 2. A lot of strikeouts in that game, but Rice is really a threat offensively. Like, if he can get going and be a piece of this team, that'd be fantastic and really just huge. As well, the Cabrera was quiet on the offensive side kind of the whole way through. He's in a bit of a platoon situation where Pablo Reyes has been the one that's pinch hit for him, and I guess that's okay. What was smart was Oswald Peraza was brought in for defense when Cabrera got pinch hit for in game 3, which you have to do. Reyes is not a good defender. And so again, that third base situation is not great, and we'll see what it's like moving forward. I mean, again, DJ LeMahieu's no answer. So it may come to a point when they may have to look outside the organization to make that better. But who knows? Again, I am an Oswaldo Cabrera fan, but I just think more, I don't know, in an everyday third base role, I don't know that that's going to last. So as far as someone who I haven't even brought up yet, Will Warren. Give credit to Will Warren. 5 innings, 1 hit, 2 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. Too many walks. He did allow a homer to Corbin Carroll. That was really the one mistake he made. He was in line for the win. That's the sad part, is that Will Warren really pitched very, very well. And it would have been his first major league win if he got it. The bullpen could not seal the deal. For the Diamondbacks, Corbin Burns, 4 and a third innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, only 2 of those earned, 3 walks and 8 strikeouts. The Yankees caught a pretty big bait with an error by former Guardian Josh Naylor. So this was one again. Corbin Carroll, it's a 2-run homer in the 3rd inning. Yankees respond with a solo shot by Jason Dominguez off of Burns, which was impressive. Yankees had a chance to maybe tie it or take a lead in that inning. I'm not going to get into the specifics there, but they did not. However, in the 4th, they do. Anthony Volpe hits a home run to tie, and that one was to left center field. So that he got into that one for sure. That was no cheapie. And then the Yankees catch a break. They get a couple of guys on. Ben Rice does strike out in a pretty big spot, but is bailed out by Josh Naylor as he flips the ball over the head of Corbin Burns on a play on a ground to first. Oswaldo Cabrera hustling down the first base line, which helped a little bit. Probably didn't make a huge difference, but 2 runs score and the Yankees take a 4-2 lead. Will Warren gets a big strike out of Corbin Carroll to end his night after 5 innings, and he was pretty pumped up as it happened. And then Fernando Cruz, another bright spot. Fernando Cruz looked nasty. He goes 2 innings, no hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. Like, if you can get that Fernando Cruz, it's just another dynamic weapon for this bullpen. And really, as far as the pecking order is concerned, he probably, for me, taking Timo aside, but he's kind of he's a different, he's a lefty specialist. Like, as far as like the righties, he's probably right now number 3 for me ahead of Mark Leiter Jr., but I understand it kind of depends on the situation too. It's not so clear cut, but Fernando Cruz has got the stuff. But let's fast forward after Cruz's fantastic 2 innings to Tim Hill in the 8th inning, and it's the Yankee killer Randall Grichuk that, of course, gets it going. Randall Grichuk is always going to find a way to do something against the Yankees. It's a leadoff double for him off of the lefty Tim Hill. Grichuk was a pinch hitter. Then kind of a lucky hit for Perdomo as a righty down the first base line, makes it 4-3. And then Corbin Carroll grounds out. They get Perdomo out at second. And so Mark Leiter Jr. comes into a situation where it's a 4-3 game, runner on first, 1 out. And the worst things that he does is he walks Ketel Marte and Pavin Smith. You cannot do that in that situation. That's where he really went wrong. And then he strikes out Josh Naylor. So he's able to kind of keep it at 4-3 Yankees. Bases loaded 2 out. And that's the situation I brought up before where I wish that somehow Luke Weaver came in. He didn't. Ottavino was warming up, and that would have not been the answer either. I would have rather gone with Leiter Jr. over Ottavino. But you end up getting into a situation where Eugenio Suarez is up, and he has been one of the hottest hitters in baseball so far this season. And it's a 2-2 count, and he just got him swinging on the 2-1 pitch previous, and he was sitting on the splitter. He was sitting on the off speed, and Suarez got into it to left field, grand slam. And that was the play of the game and the pitch of the game. And Cody Bellinger had a chance to maybe bring it back, but it would have been tough. Kind of jumped a little early, and Arizona takes a 7-4 lead. And so a combination of Tim Hill and more so Mark Leiter Jr. does not get the job done. So Adam Ottavino finishes out that inning, actually. Justin Martinez shuts down the Yankees in the eighth inning. He strikes out the side. And then in the bottom of the ninth, again, it was a combination of Ottavino and Brent Hedrick for the top of the ninth. But the bottom of the ninth, a little bit of life with 2 outs, 2 strikes. Ben Rice homers, his second homer of the season off of AJ Puck. So a lefty-lefty homer, impressive to make it 7-5. But then Pablo Reyes pinch hitting for Oswaldo Cabrera lines out to center, and Arizona wins 7-5. So a tough first loss of the season for it to have gone that way when you got a lot of good there from Will Warren. Offense did a nice job against Corbin Burns, but they end up on the losing side of it. So let's jump over to game two. And this one will be pretty quick. Zac Gallen was just unbelievable. Yankees could not touch him. He is one of the best pitchers in the league. You know, I guess that's where the sentence ends, kind of like Gallen at times has been very good. Ironically, he was traded for Jazz Chisholm Jr. in a Marlins Diamondbacks trade. Talk about, and I remember when it happened at the time thinking like those were two young, promising players. And sure enough, years later, they still are two of the better players in the game. Zac Gallen being one of the best pitchers in the game. And he goes 6 2/3 innings, 3 hits, no runs, no walks, 13 strikeouts. Think about that. No walks and 13 strikeouts. It doesn't get much better than that. Not good on the Yankees front, obviously. Carlos Rodon, 6 innings, 3 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. Way too many walks, right? That's the problem with him. He gives up his one customary home run. It was a 2-run homer, not a solo homer, so not great in that sense, but it's the 4 walks. That's the problem. And so Rodon drops to 1-1 on the season after what was a really good opening day start. It starts early. It was a leadoff walk to Ketel Marte and then a 2-run homer for Lourdes Gurriel Jr. His second homer of the year makes it 2-0 Arizona. And then in the top of the second, another leadoff walk, this to Eugenio Suarez. And then Gabby Moreno gets a single off of the glove of Rodon. And either Rodon, if he fields that cleanly, it could have been a double play, or if he just lets it go completely, it would have been a double play. So a worst case scenario there for Rodon and the Yankees is what could have been 2 outs, no one on, ends up first and second, no out. Jake McCarthy grounds out to move the runners over to second and third, and then Perdomo's sac fly makes it 3-0, and then a 2-out RBI single for Ketel Marte makes it 4-0. That was all Arizona needed. And one inning Yankees had a little bit of a chance was the second inning, where you get a Jazz Chisholm single, and Austin Wells double with 1 out. So it's second and third, 1 out, and Dominguez and Rice both struck out. Really rough games for Dominguez and Rice. Dominguez 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. Rice 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. And again, everyone in the starting lineup struck out except for Austin Wells on this night. So give credit to Yoendris Gomez, who comes in there in the seventh inning and throws 3 innings, no hits, 3 walks, which is too many for sure, and only 1 strikeout. So not a great walk to strikeout ratio, but still good nonetheless. And I like what I've seen from Yoendris Gomez in the brief times that he's been in the major leagues. Let's fast forward to the ninth. Again, Gallen did what he did, and Ryan Thompson, the former Rays, in leadoff single Bellinger, and then Aaron Judge singles. Then AJ Puck lefty comes on, who closed out the night before. He did get up the homer to Ben Rice, but then it was a Jazz Chisholm Jr. flyout, and he hit it pretty well, but a flyout nonetheless. And then Anthony Volpe with the Yankee Stadium short porch home run to right. It's 4th homer of the year, very impressive. 4 homers in 5 games, makes it 4-3. So there's a chance, but then Austin Wells pops out in foul territory, and Jason Dominguez strikes out against AJ Puck. And there you have it. Arizona wins the series at that point with the 4-3 win. And now the Yankees have to basically try their best to avoid the sweep, which they do. And they really got to Merrill Kelly. He only went 3 2/3 innings, 9 hits, 9 runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 3 homers allowed. Like, it was just domination by the Yankees offense against him. And Carlos Carrasco, again, pretty solid. 5 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. It's not an amazing line, but it's really far from bad as well. And so he gets the win. And Carlos Carrasco probably doesn't have that many more wins left in his career. And he's a great story as well. I mean, he's been around for a long time now, had some health scares as well. Really, one of the good guys in the league. Um, and, good to see him pitching well there. This was a game where JC Escarra gets his first major league start, and he actually gets a hit. He got a double, which was really cool off of a lefty as well, a lefty hit off of Jalen Beeks later in the game. So just wanted to jump into that. But the real besides Aaron Judge being the real star of this game, Trent Grisham has a great game. He goes 3 for 4 with a 2-run homer, and he also had an RBI double as well. So I like what I've seen from Trent Grisham, and it's easy to forget that last year when Giancarlo Stanton went down, the Yankees weren't doing well. Trent Grisham was sadly one of their better hitters, and the better I'd say mostly it was probably August, maybe early September as well, where Grisham got some playing time regularly and was putting up some of the better numbers on the team. So Grisham is someone, he's not a great player. He's not someone that's going to get a great batting average, but he does have pop, has a decent eye, is typically a good, even though he does frustrate me out there, he is a good center fielder. There's no debating that. Trent Grisham is a valuable player. If utilized properly, he could have a much bigger role on the 2025 Yankee team than he did in 2024. Ben Rice would lead off and play first base and, really did a nice job actually in the leadoff spot. Ben Rice has been a definite bright spot so far this season. And so that meant, again, Paul Goldschmidt was on the bench as well as Austin Wells. So Yankees just jump out to that lead early, and it would be Aaron Judge with a 3-run homer. After a ground roll double by Ben Rice and a walk by Cody Bellinger, Judge hits his 5th homer of the year, a 3-run shot. And then later in the inning, Trent Grisham with an RBI double to the opposite field, which is impressive as well. And Jason Dominguez showing off his speed, scoring from first base to give the Yankees a 4-0 lead. The Diamondbacks would come back with a run of the second. A leadoff walk by Carrasco sets that in motion, which, again, those leadoff walks always come back to kill you. But he did limit the damage, so it's just 4-1. And then the bottom of the third, it would be Trent Grisham back at it again. A 2-out rally for the Yanks. And it's a Trent Grisham 2-run shot, his first homer of the season to make it 6-1. Arizona would score a couple of runs in the fourth. Again, it's a leadoff walk by Carrasco that eventually leads to a couple of runs. An RBI double by Lourdes Gurriel Jr., an RBI ground up by Alec Thomas makes it 6-3. But the Yankees, they would respond themselves. Aaron Judge, it's an RBI single after a Ben Rice walk and steal. So, it was cool to see in this game. You get steals from Rice, Judge, and Chisholm. And then Jazz Chisholm Jr. hits another home run. His 4th homer of the season, a 2-run shot to give the Yankees a 9-3 lead. And those runs would prove to be very, very important. As Carrasco would pitch into the 6th, Adam Ottavino would get the last couple of outs of the 6th. There was a walk in there, but also a strikeout. So Ottavino, as in his 2 appearances, not terrible. Like, you see the stuff is still there for him, but again, he's going to be one of those guys that's used probably in lower leverage situations. And then the top of the 7th, Ryan Yarbrough really kind of implodes. And to the point where, like I said before, I don't think Yarbrough will be taken off this roster. I really don't. But in a strong bullpen that has players coming back, like Ian Hamilton's on the mend. And I know Yarbrough is a lefty, but, you have to perform well to stay on this roster. And Yarbrough certainly did not do that. A couple of walks to start, which again is a recipe for disaster. And a couple batters later, a grand slam to right field, opposite field homer for Geraldo Perdomo. His first homer of the year makes it 9-7. To give Yarbrough a little bit of credit, he stayed in and got a couple of lefties to make out. So then Mark Leiter Jr. comes in and gets Gurriel Jr. to strike out to end the inning. The 7th inning is where JC Escarra is able to get that double. The Yankees had a chance to maybe score. There was a bases loaded 2-out situation for Ben Rice, but they don't convert there as Rice strikes out. Mark Leiter Jr. would get a couple of outs in the 8th before allowing a single to Ketel Marte, leading the way for a Luke Weaver 4-out save. And he looked really good in doing it. He gets a ground out and then 2 ground outs to start the 9th, and he strikes out Pavin Smith to end it. So Luke Weaver, the former Arizona Diamondback, picks up his first save of the season, a 4-out save, and the Yankees avoid the sweep and they win it 9-7. So 4-2. Look, if you had told me 4-2 through 6 games, I'd take it. It is unfortunate that the Yankees did lose the series because it was winnable. Again, especially game 1. They had that right in their grasp and they were not able to hold on to it. So there certainly were some negatives this series. I mean, Zac Gallen completely shut them down. Yankee offense didn't do much against the bullpen at all in game 1 either. But then you saw by the end of the series what they can do. I mean, when they have the matchup right, they can really dominate a pitcher. And that's what they did to Merrill Kelly in this one in a major, major way. So they sweep the Brewers. They lose 2 out of 3 to Arizona. That's a 4-2 homestand. And now they will head to Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates in what will be their home opening series. and the Yankees catch a break as they will not see Paul Skeens. So kind of unfortunate in terms of pure entertainment, but good for the Yankees in terms of competitiveness because he would have been really, really tough to hit. And then the Yankees will go to Detroit to take on the Gleyber Torres-less Tigers as he's injured. But we'll talk about that more as we get there. But yeah, it'll be the first Yankee road trip of the season, coming off of a series loss to the Arizona Diamondbacks. And now they will take on the Pittsburgh Pirates.